Hello and welcome back to The Stack, and here are today's top stories. The first story, the TV ratings are in for the January 6th hearing that was broadcasted to live TV. And just as you would imagine, Americans do not care about the January 6th hearing. No one is falling for the propaganda being perpetrated by the Democrats and Liz Cheney through this committee. It was an utter disaster for the January 6th committee. I mean, viewers tuned out in droves. So primetime networks covered it like ABC and NBC, and they drew in some cases, half or less than half of their normal viewers than they would if they were just carrying their normal nightly news. So total disaster for the Democrats, for mainstream media. They are obsessed with January 6th. It is a sham hearing, and it is simply propaganda in Democrats' attempt to win the midterms this year. And like I said, no one is falling for it based on these ratings. It's worth noting that Fox News didn't broadcast these hearings, and of course, people like Tucker Carlson crushed their competition. And the second story, Liz Cheney. So Liz Cheney is one of the Republicans on the January 6th committee. She has betrayed the GOP. She has betrayed voters, and now it's showing in the polls. Back in Wyoming, Liz Cheney has a primary opponent, and Cheney's polling has totally collapsed, and her challenger now has a 2-1 lead over Liz Cheney. Voters have said that only 28% are going to vote for Liz Cheney. That's a pretty shocking number, and it means that from what it looks like now, Liz Cheney is going to get crushed in her primary, and Wyoming is going to have a new representative to the House of Reps this fall. And personally, I think that's great news. And the third story, the largest pork company in the United States has shut down a plant in California due to high costs. This is pretty alarming for, I think, a lot of reasons. One, the United States is facing a food shortage right now, and this is only going to make this worse. It also means that the U.S. might have to start looking for other places to source its food from instead of sourcing it from the United States. And it really shows what liberal governance does to a company. Companies literally can't afford to operate in California anymore. We've seen companies like Tesla, for example, move to Texas because they don't want to operate in the liberal, expensive state of California anymore. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. But this is going to have real life consequences on the American people. So it's worth paying attention to. I think it's alarming when we see any sort of company or food processing plant shut down in the United States. So if you want to stay up to date on the latest news of food shortages, food processing plants, the latest news on Liz Cheney's failures, and the latest on the January 6th committee, you can head to westernjournal.com. And please be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode of The Stack.